Why didn't this come out at trial?
Couldn't be corroborated.
Well, that's right, because
strategy.
Because the one he's chosen, he had repeatedly told his attorneys throughout the trial that he was not. His parents were mistaken, and it was the night before. Mm-hmm. In fact, there was a family friend that they said could corroborate that he was there. She even came out and said, "No, you're mistaken. It was the night before."
And
has a receipt from a Kinko's where her and her Jones's mother went to copy some stuff for she was a teacher.
And again, she testified to this under oath. I want people to understand that all of these were testimonies under oath.
So how many alibis do we know? How many different alibis?
At least 4.
Yeah.
So on the night of the murder, he, initially his girlfriend had wondered where she was. He said he was on the south side of town. That was one, south side of Oklahoma City. That was one alibi. Second one was he told, I guess technically, second alibi would have been he was home with his family during the murder.
Playing a board game.
Playing Monopoly and eating spaghetti with his family.
It didn't surface till later.
Fighting over a cookie.
Right. That didn't surface till in the evidentiary hearing after the sentencing. Correct. That's when his current story and what he's holding true to right now is where it started. And unfortunately, he had already told many people that he was not there that night at his home. He was out doing other things. He also, 2 uninvolved eyewitnesses saw him with the Suburban the night of the murder.
The alibi was that he was there, but he was not the shooter.
He was not the shooter.
Yes.
The first
That was
one
basically what
was, I did not shoot Paul Howell. It was Christopher Jordan that shot Paul Howell. That
he never said anything to a judge and jury. Now, he told his lawyers for the whole process from the time of the murder through the trials and the evidentiary hearings that he was not the shooter and that, they didn't do the alibi because he said he was not at home. That was another alibi. It's not that he was on the south side, but that he wasn't at home.
Right.
That was one. And he wasn't at home for all those years, but he never said where he was. He just said he wasn't at home. Then you have all the eyewitnesses that placed him in the Suburban at the apartment of Liddell King after the murder. So those were kind of variations of that same thing. Originally they were going to point fingers at each other. And I believe he said, I wasn't the shooter.
Did he not write in a letter to his girlfriend, if anybody asks you, tell them I was on the south side?
There were some letters.
If you ever want to see me again out of prison, then you've got to do something for me. And then he goes into pretty much asking her to change her story, because they can't get you for anything.
Yeah.
Is essentially what it said.
But didn't she also testify? I think she testified also that he had told her that 2 completely separate people had done it. So not only did he also say that it was him and Christopher, but he didn't do the shooting. But then he told another rendition of it that 2 completely separate people did it. And then told a completely different one that said Jordan and Liddell Data King, did it, and that he was just the one that was moving the car.
Right.
So again, people are going against Christopher Jordan and his story. And I think there's one other
There's another one where he said he was in Norman at the time.
Yes. And so there were several renditions of it, and everybody is again pointing fingers at Christopher Jordan, saying that he had multiple storylines. Well, if we're going to point the finger at Christopher Jordan, we also need to point it at Julius Jones, because his storylines were just as fabricated. And of course, if you're going to be in this position, you're going to say, "Oh my gosh," you're going to scramble.
Why didn't this come out at trial?
Couldn't be corroborated.
Well, that's right, because
strategy.
Because the one he's chosen, he had repeatedly told his attorneys throughout the trial that he was not. His parents were mistaken, and it was the night before. In fact, there was a family friend that they said could corroborate that he was there. She even came out and said, "No, you're mistaken. It was the night before." And has a receipt from a Kinko's where her and her Jones's mother went to copy some stuff for she was a teacher.
And again, she testified to this under oath. I want people to understand that all of these were testimonies under oath. That they talked about this this alibi anyway. And I thought it was in the defense that called for Nikujo up there, and then she was the one that said, no, you guys have got this wrong.
So it was the prosecution that put her up there
okay.
because they knew that, because they had interviewed her as well, and
Right.
they knew that it was wrong.
And she also had a
And again,
son,
why?
it was a sworn affidavit. They didn't ask him to testify.
Right.
During the evidentiary or the appellate process, they got a sworn affidavit from the boy.
So,
Yeah, this
so
day was the night before, yeah.
sorry. So the alibi in general was one of the easiest ones in my opinion. Would you guys agree?
Sure, changed his story multiple times, and he can be fully disproven on where he was at.
Where he was. On the opposite
Right
side
here,
of that,
surveillance
proven he was
footage
there
of
by other people.
Jones at the convenience store
That
in the
was next
suburb
day.
the next day.
He did
Under
admit.
surveillance.
Yeah, he didn't.
He said he did admit, because he obviously was on TV. You know, he got caught on the CCTV. So he said,
And remember that I sent you guys a screenshot of that article where he literally says, I've never heard of Paul Howell before in my life. I've never seen him. I've never seen the Suburban, like
No.
all kinds of, never. And this was
Yeah.
just recently that he did that. So
he claims that Liddell King called him up and said, "Hey, I need some help moving a car." He was in need of money and thought it was a quick buck and decided to take the car. Move the car.
Help them move, yeah.
But that's again because he got caught on TV, on camera.
Yeah. So we actually have a copy of the letter that he sent out from prison that to his girlfriend, it was Pocahontas at the time, right? And who was probably the most correspondence that he had sent out from prison. But who said that his stupid ass relatives would say
Weren't willing
anything,
to lie
were
for him.
willing to lie for him. Come to fruition,
They are lying.
they
for
are,
him.
yeah. And
it
then
happens.
and again,
Yeah.
I think it's also important to notate that they didn't bring any of his parents or family, on the stand, or they haven't recently because they hesitate to use them because of getting the stories correct. Is this right? They're kind of trying to shield the family from not being able to
Well, I
provide
think,
this very rehearsed alibi. And again, I think it's, if anybody watched that video, and we're not promoting any videos, but the cookie thing, and I've told Hans this a billion times, like it just gets me. I mean, you do not pinpoint any stories unless it's rehearsed. And so like if everybody has that exact same, like you don't pinpoint
Yeah.
when you're telling something or corroborating a story unless it's completely rehearsed.